talk about how to organize our speech is DTM Raul de Vega. On the next slide.
Okay. So hello everyone. You know, definitely one of these days you're going to be asked to make a presentation, probably to business partners, to owners, or maybe even to your colleagues. When that happens, how are you going to react? Are you going to become anxious? Are you going to refuse the opportunity? Are you going to scurry somewhere and hide? Well, today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what you can do so that you'll be able to prepare an outline of your presentation. You'll be able to organize your talks so that you don't ever have to worry about meeting the challenge of presenting, no matter how big the audience you're going to have. Later on, I'm going to share with you some techniques on what you can do when you organize your speech. You see, basic is you have your introduction, the body, which would have for a 5 to 7 minute speech, maximum of 3 points. You could have 2 to 3 points, but nothing more than 3 points, and then conclusion. Remember, if it's 5 to 7 minutes, 10% for the opening and conclusion. So you've been asked to prepare your speech. First question you'd like to ask yourself is, what is your purpose? At the end of the presentation, what is it that you want your audience to remember? That's going to be your purpose. Now, you have a choice to inform, entertain, persuade, or convince them to try something, or to inspire. Now you can combine two. Usually in most speeches they combine entertainment and inspiration, but then it's all up to you. Here is an outline that you would like to try whenever you make your speech projects. I suggest this because you're going to tell something about yourself. Share your experience. Tell a story, make a point, tell another story that's related to it. And team, when you make your presentations, the best practice, for those of you who participated in the table topics, that's a good way of getting started because it's going to teach you a very important technique. And this technique, which is helpful in preparing your speeches, story, message, game. Use this technique whenever you practice in table topics because it's going to serve as the building blocks whenever you make your presentations. So when you use your story, message, game, outline, start off with your story. Make sure your story is complete. It answers who, what, where, when, how, and why. These will be the building blocks of your story. Once you're done with the story, move on right away to your message. What is the key point that you want your audience to do? What is it? Maybe you want them to start saving money, or maybe your message is you want them to be punctual, or perhaps your message is you want them to invest in certain stocks. So be clear with that message. State it in just one sentence. And then the game, very important. Let them know what their benefit will be. It's possible they're going to save money, they're going to save time, or it's possible that they will help the environment, or maybe they'll get closer relationships with their family. Are you ready for a demonstration? All right. Well, so let's pretend this demonstration you would like to share with the audience the importance of not bringing mobile phones in the secured areas of your facility. So how would you like to be able to keep your phone and not worry about your phone ever being confiscated? Well, let me share you how following our security protocols will help you keep your phone. You see, one time while I was in one of the training rooms, one of my trainees found out that there was a mobile phone, an iPhone 6 being charged. They said, hey, Sir Raul, look, there's a mobile phone being charged here. I said, oh gosh, we better turn it over to security, otherwise we might get in trouble. So what I did is I got the mobile phone and I turned it over to security. The guard was so happy. Gosh, now he has something to show to his superiors, having found an unauthorized phone. And at that moment, as I went back to my training room, I thought that everything would be fine. Unbeknownst, later on, the owner of the phone came over to the room and said, oh, I just need to get something at the back of the room. And I said, oh, she must be the owner of that phone. So I told her, hey, you know what? Your phone is over with security. Of course, she went over to security to claim her phone back. But, you know, security had turned it over to the next department, information security. It's that IT group that makes sure that the phone doesn't have any private files that belong to the company. And they're not just going to take a look at it and give it back. No, the supervisor of information security would have to look at the entire phone, look at all the data. Now, can you imagine? Your phone is with strangers who can look at every picture, video, message, record in your phone, every private detail. The stress of that is very unnerving. You know, my message to all of you, make sure that whenever you bring your phones in the office, make sure you secure it. Your benefit is you don't ever have to worry about your phone getting confiscated and missing out on important messages. Best of all, you'll know that your information in that phone stays with you. Okay, now let's pause for a moment. Let me just ask a few questions. What was I trying to do? Was I trying to persuade, entertain, inform, or inspire? What do you think?
Inform.
Two things, yeah. Inform and persuade. That was one, because I wanted to inform you about the security measures of the company, the policy of the company, and I was doing my best to persuade you, please do not bring your mobile phones to the high security areas. You have a policy like that in the office, don't you? Yes, if something says, okay. Now, I know that you're with admin. If you were to tell people, please don't bring your mobile phones to the high security area, out of 10, how many violators would you expect?
Probably 7.
7 would violate. But if you would gather them during the orientation and share them, your experience, a personal story, well, in this way, I can guarantee you, they'll think, oh my gosh, I don't want that to happen to me. Now, do you remember what kind of phone it was that we were talking about? It was an S, iPhone 6. Now, team, the reason for that is whenever you share the story, make sure that the details are there. Anytime you prepare your speech and you share a personal story, make it as detailed as possible so that your audience can imagine what was happening. They'll be able to paint the picture in their mind the way you're able to share with your audience. Now, when I got the phone, who did I give it to? Exactly. Now, and then later on, it was passed on to the next department, which was called information security. What benefit do you get? What benefit was I trying to tell you that you would get if you secure your phone? Because that was my message. So what benefit do you get?
I don't need to go through the red tape of getting a phone.
Right! Okay, based on what? Yes, and you don't have to go through that kind of red tape, and you won't miss out on any messages. So team, anytime you can, don't just give a story. Make sure you conclude with your message and gain. Remember the pattern which I showed you a while ago. there's a point that you have to stress as you do so. So get to practice this whenever you not only do table topics, but also whenever you prepare your presentation. Okay, guys, and anytime you can, I encourage you to practice your storytelling skills. There are times when you would hang out at the pantry or maybe go to Starbucks and then talk with a friend. Practice your storytelling skills. That way, you would get more accustomed to sharing a story, and it makes you a lot more conversational. Again, for a 5 to 7 minute speech, have 2 to 3 supporting stories. That way, you won't go over time. And now that we've talked about how you could work on your speech, let's talk about those of you who are going to deliver your next speech. Oh, this one. This is just to show you that before you move to an important point, make sure you have a transition. This is just one out of several transitions. Now you can see that I'm moving to another point. Meanwhile, who among you has yet to do your icebreaker speech? You're going to prepare your icebreaker speech soon. I'd like to share with you a pattern that you could use as you get your icebreaker speech ready. A very effective pattern whenever you share who you are, or if someone asks you, please tell me something about yourself, use a past, present, future outline. What you do is you talk about how things were for you in the past, how are things for you today, and then how you foresee yourself in the future. It's a very effective technique because that way your listener gets a better perspective about you. And anytime you go to, let's say, an interview for a higher position, usually when the interviewer asks you to tell something about yourself, practice mentioning that. Use your past, present, future outline. Here. Now let's pretend, using the past, present, future outline, you'd like to share tell us about your fondness for phones. And you want to share with the audience your fondness for your phones. You could probably start with the past. You could say, use the transition. You know, back in the day, I used to see my dad with this bulky phone that he would carry around. There were times when I tried it. I noticed that I could use it as long as we were in certain areas. The thing was, it wasn't just limited to carrying it. Of course, it would only be limited to making calls. You know, today, I own a Galaxy Note 8. I can watch videos, I can catch on what's happening on Netflix, I can also use Skype, or I could use it for playing games. In the future, maybe I'll use wearable technology that shows a holographic image of who I'm speaking with, and I'll have a better perspective on what videos are. Now, when we talk about the future, there's no wrong, there's no right, because once more, remember, that is your perspective. Now, what have we learned so far from what I've shared with you? Oh yeah, a lot. 100 square meters somewhere in San Pedro.
Be a structure, like, although we want to be conversational.
That's right.
Maybe the prescribed structure could be more effective.
That's right. These are two helpful structures for you. Now, I know that you're going to deliver your icebreaker speech soon. Use a past, present, future outline. Focus on one area and talk about how it was in the past, today, and in the future. Please don't start off by just saying, oh, my name is Jim. I was born in Quezon Province. I like cooking, etc., etc. If you want to talk about a particular hobby that you're passionate about, maybe you can talk about how you got started. Let's say, let's pretend basketball. Let's say, back in the day, I used to limit myself to just watching basketball games. And then I joined my first Milo event. Today, I am a proud member of the company basketball league. I'm shooting forward, etc. Some along this line. And in the future, I'll most likely coach youth teams. Not only will I guide them as a leader, but also I will be able to interact with families. So past, present, future, all focused on your key hobby, which is basketball. So that's just an example, team, on how you can use it. And then the presentation technique I showed you, the one for the next projects, you can use a story message game. Any questions that I can answer for you? Yes, please.
Does your PowerPoint have a timer? Like every slide is on a timer.
You like it?
Because I just, I can only name one person that I've ever met who does his presentations with a timer besides.
Oh,
so most people have the clicker so they can paste themselves. But
You know what? Here's my suggestion. You could also do the same thing when you prepare your icebreaker speech. Do the same. It's not only will you engage the audience, but it's a great way of using visuals. You know what, team? It's nice that you consider that idea. Nigel, right? Yeah. Give it a try. Give it a shot. Yeah. It will prompt you to really practice, and the good thing about it is because you don't need to use, shall I say, a lot of words. You can just use pictures and then naturally talk about the topic. Now, you'll be talking about yourself, so you won't have to recall too many things. Anything more? And guys, it's very helpful for today's audience. They'd rather look at pictures rather than look at information. Well, give it a try when you organize your talk, because guys, it's a terrific way to build your confidence and your communication skills. And the best thing about it is with the feedback that you'll receive, you'll definitely get better. So, let's get started and make sure you volunteer with JD or with Matt as to when you'd like to deliver your icebreaker speech. Definitely they'll schedule you, and you're on your way to developing your communication and leadership skills. Mr. Toastmaster? Well, all right.
DTM Raul. So, wasn't I right? Did you learn a lot from that 10 to 15 minute speech? I did. So thank you, DTM Raul.